Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's good to see each and every one of you.
It's good to see you.
Well, we will see if I make some sense. I want to share a secret. Perhaps you will understand, and it will stir something in you. But first we have to lay some ground to get to the secret. And this is very much based on, we've discussed the necessity of Ha-Kodesh, deep meditation, joined with prayer in the straight path. And reminded how actually important that is, how deep meditation is deep prayer, and how we need this. We also discussed not leaving anything of ourselves out, to realize actually we need to integrate our shadow. We need to integrate our inner Kelipot. And how actually the shadow gives us that strength to bring realization, to bring enlightenment to fruition, intriguingly enough. How something is hidden in what we might think needs to be left out. So based upon this, something we very much need to understand with regards to the straight path is naturally, we will be in a dance of oneness and two-ness. It's very important that we understand that there's a natural dance with us of the oneness and the two-ness, of being inside and being outside. And this is all part of the play of our coming into being. It is true, the further our reaching, the further our realization of oneness, the more and more we can move from oneness in various ways and integrate this awareness of oneness into more and more activities. But nevertheless, it is ordained that we have this dance of oneness and two-ness. And this dance of inside and outside, inwardness and outwardness. And it's important that we understand that, because in the midst of the journey, if we don't, what happens then, in a moment where one finds oneself profoundly in an experience of two-ness, outwardness, one could fall into unnecessary self-negativity. One could fall into unnecessary self-doubt. One could think the Shekinah has left one. You know? As though truly there's a coming and going of Shekinah. A coming and going of one's awareness of Shekinah, perhaps. A coming and going of Shekinah. Yeah, but Shekinah is manifest as everything and everyone. The Holy One is within everything and everyone. So, coming and going. This is interesting. But there's something to be said about two modes in spiritual practice based on this. Because we can have these moments very profoundly in which we move in spiritual practice and move in things from oneness. And these other moments from two-ness. What do I mean? Well, this actually gets captured in a teaching of the Zohar concerning a little phraseology around Psalms associated with King David, where oftentimes it says, a Psalm of David, but once in a while it says, of David a Psalm. And they say, this is quite distinct. In fact, if you read the Psalms, where it says a Psalm of David a Psalm versus a Psalm of David, they're very inspired. They're very uplifted. They are amazingly radiant and luminous. Different than the others in a tone and a quality versus a Psalm of David. And what the Zohar says is, well, a Psalm of David is when David is praying, David is singing to come into a state of Ruach Ha-Kodesh, enlightenment or prophecy. In other words, when his prayer, his song, his invocation is beginning in tunis, and that feeling of being outward directed, being kind of an outsider, using prayer to move within into a state of David oneness, a state of hitbodidot, deep meditation, you see. But then there are these prayers where David is already in Ruach HaKodesh, already in the experience of oneness, and they just flow out. They start there. So there's these ones that start in tunis, ending in Ruach HaKodesh, perhaps ending there, laboring to do so. And there are these others that already in that deep meditation, already in that David with that oneness, already in Ruach HaKodesh, so that those prophecies are veritably called, Psalms are veritably called prophecies, coming from something of the Spirit, prophets. Well, this really isn't a big secret. This is in Zohar, a number of places. It's in the writings of Merkavah. We certainly know about this a lot in our experience, where, we have those times where at the outset of prayer, we're not quite there, but we pray. At the outset of a practice, we're not quite there, but we engage the practice, and somewhere we actually come deeper into prayer or meditation, a nearness, a oneness, a movement of the Spirit. And there are these other times where, wow, already there, and wow, does it just light off, and it's just happening, and no effort at all. Yes. Yeah. So these teachings of straight path actually are teachings of the way of the prophets, don't you? That's why they're actually not for beginners. When you teach the straight path, you're actually teaching the way of the prophets and apostles. Well, it's the way of the knowers of God. It's a way of deep intimacy, nearness, oneness. Where does prophecy come from? Where does revelation come from? Where does knowledge, understanding, wisdom come from? So, this is interesting. Why don't we speak a secret of Merkavah? And we can see, who has ears to hear, eyes to see, heart to feel, and mind to understand. There is a very curious teaching of Merkavah. It says that a writer of Merkavah first descends. And this is interesting. Now, teachings have been given in writings and in various discourses, veiled teachings on what that might mean, and they're true. They're really teachings talking about the necessity of integrating our shadow and movements into a clay pot, liberating sparks for further progress and so on in reaching, in realization. And there's that teaching of, well, the higher you wish to ascend, the deeper you must be willing to descend. So there is that, and there's truth in that, although that does veil the deepest meaning to these teachings for those who realize, for example, the mental Lyle, who really take the oral instruction, following the empowerment, carry it out in meditation, in practice, so on. Yeah. So, look here. To sons and daughters of the prophet, there are teachings given in the formation of chariot for the sake of ascending, for the sake of entering into deep contemplation, deep meditation, so as to enter into an enlightenment experience, a prophetic state of consciousness, a movement of revelation, a movement of knowing. Yes, indeed. So at the outset of envisioning these things, there's this intent of going within and going beyond this ascension. But this is not the formation of the true Holy Merkavah and chariot, though it may lead to it, and is meant to. Those practices are actually preliminary. They're preliminary. They're preparing. They're opening. They're helping understand how to come into the state in which the Merkavah, the chariot, is actually formed. You see, it's actually formed from a state of nothingness, oneness, meaning the deepest state of hitbodidut. Deep, deep meditation. And the arising of this body of vision from that state of conscious union with one, with the light. You feeling? Meaning, one is already ascended and reached. And that's why the first action of a rider of the chariot, a prophet or apostle, a meditator, is to descend. Because all of a sudden, instead of a movement to reach the oneness, the nothingness, it's moving from the nothingness, the oneness, focusing spiritual energy into a place and a time, and into this world, and for the people and for the land. And so the first action, riding, is descending, then ascending. By the way, this is said in the Gospel of John. What does Yeshua teach in the 3rd chapter? No one has ascended into heaven but the one who descended from heaven, even the child of the human one. That's a direct statement of Merkavah, my friends. And this, of course, directly parallels the generation of the threefold body from Great Vision of Melchizedek. But then, in Christian Kabbalah, aren't those teachings of Merkavah? If we understand the human one as the chariot. By the way, this is hinted at in Judaic Kabbalah also. How about the Zohar that refers to the patriarchs and matriarchs as chariots of Sephiroth, of the Shekinah, of the various Sephiroth, literally calls them chariots. Vehicles, goes on to call them tents, dwellings of the presence. This is interesting. Now, What do I mean to the sons and daughters of the prophets? Teachings of the formation of Merkavah for ascension, for entering into deep Hitboridun, are given. Let me share this in the context of our own lineage. Do you understand that practices of union with Partsufim are Merkavah practices within the Christian Kabbalah? They are. Let us consider this for a moment. So let us consider a union with Partsuf in the mode of transference of consciousness. So here we are meditating. Here is the image of the holy Partsuf in radiant body of glory, body of light, hovering in the space before us, just above us. And we abide in this communion. And here is this radiance shining upon us, transforming us into the likeness, the image of itself. And becoming this radiance, this glory, we then dissolve, gather our consciousness into heart and dissolve, projecting soul consciousness into Partsuf, into this divine personification, merging with, arising as the Partsuf, beyond the physical, beyond the body. Astral, spiritual, supernal. But we are not finished. When doing this, then what do we do? Oh, why? We then merge as Partsuf with Ein Sof, the infinite. Ein, the no-thingness. Like a rainbow dissolving into the sky. This corresponds with the deepest state of Hitboridun. In this way, you can see that this is a practice of entering into deep Hitboridun. But now, let's contemplate this. Do you suppose that if an individual enters into this union with Holy One, the nothingness, the infinite, the eternal, this clear light nature, that the arising from this as Partsuf is a radically different manifestation? That all of a sudden, the truth of innate unity with Partsuf, of being Partsuf, as oneself emanating from the One, arises? Here is formation of Merkavah, from nothingness, oneness, you see. Also, we know directly parallel with great vision. Abiding in union with clear light, arising of sound vibration, essential lights, rays, geometrical patterns, light forms, light images, light realms. Yes, this movement, body of truth, body of glory, ultimately body of emanation here. The awareness of this oneness in heaven, on earth, in the arising of all reality, you see. What good is this to you? I don't know. But it was given that I should share this with you. So, how's this stirring you?
I praise the Lord for this nuance that you've shared. How is Maaseh Bereshit interacting with Maaseh Merkavah in light of what you're saying in beginning and outset of practice, and how it comes to manifest in fullness and dissolution? They feel very related.
They are. The work of creation, understood as generation, is the truth that when we first are engaging such practices, they are obviously conceptual. They are a flight of fantasy. They are a controlled fantasy. We're actually learning to focus our thought, to focus our emotion, to focus our imagination, to focus mind and heart, to focus the soul, to focus consciousness. In other words, for a generation of kavana, concentration, and deviko, cleaving. At first, conceptual, fanciful, yes. But as we continue, we start getting glimpses, we start getting tastes, we start getting breakthroughs. We start having actual experiences of something of this presence, this power, actual experiences of the nearness, actual experiences of the oneness, and this may grow. For example, the images that we are given at the outset for union with Partsu is simply a place to start, with the awareness that if I hold with this over time and actually develop my capacity of deeper contemplation, deeper meditation, all of a sudden there will be a revelation in my own experience of Partsu, of this living presence. And I will have an entirely different image to envision. One in deep resonance with me, with my soul, with my inner being, and my spiritual essence. And more, something of that living presence will take up the movement of the meditation. So what starts out as a practice moves towards no practice, meaning more and more can enter, and there's just this movement of this living presence, living power, Holy Shekinah, that one abides in. Naturally, in the midst of this, there can be something of a flip, where we actually experience that typically we have things backwards or upside down. Where all of a sudden orientation flips from the name, form, personal history to our spiritual essence. From this world to eternal realm, the light continuum. Where all of a sudden there are these experiences of the inner aspects of soul, inner being, spiritual essence. And more of this oneness and nothingness, oneness, nothingness. And now there is a completely different arising that cannot be put into words. It is secret in the sense that we must enter into the direct experience ourselves. But we can say this. As this begins to happen, a writer of the Merkavah can speak to one who knows already, one with whom this is happening, and pointing out instruction to help deepen and expand these experiences of the formation of Merkavah, chair. Feel?
I do.
And this is the dance. Same with that play, that mantle of a life. Empowerment, then that deeper passion in contemplation, meditation, the continuing evolution of the interior life and certain experiences, which then can receive the mind-to-mind, heart-to-heart, and pointing out instructions to bring to fruition. Merkavah. Yeah.
I've never seen until today that almost all of the Partsuf practices are rehearsing this process. Building, dissolving, and then moving as.
And because it's based on this realization, they're a direct expression of the knowledge and power of the realization. So they really are able to facilitate this experience, this awakening. So these preliminary practices are powerful practices. This goes hand in hand with 3 Shabbats ago when I was emphasizing how important it is to frequently envision oneself as light, surrounded by light. That there is simply a truth in this, and that's a very important, simple practice, strongly suggested. And what are Partsufing practices? Human one of light in different aspects, forms, oneself becoming human one of light, surrounded by light. Yes, there's something to this. And this is directly reflecting things that naturally and spontaneously arise in this Ruach Ha-Kodesh, this enlightenment experience, you see. Things that are known, seen, heard, felt.
Praise God.
Indeed, indeed, indeed.
I was wondering if, well, I was contemplating Shabbat and rest and how there's that play in Malkut of the word Shabbat and rest. And it kind of seems to play out in this conversation of running and returning, because it seems that one can always rest in this empty nature, even when one is moving within this world. One can always find rest in the empty nature and one's transcendence. So I'm kind of hearing that in the mystery of Shabbat. Could we say more about that?
Very much so. First Shabbat is a day for a bit deeper, prolonged meditation, isn't it? But you may recall the Gospel of Thomas. The sign of the living Father in you is movement and repose. Think of this for a moment in terms of a chariot, and Merkavah also having implications of throne. So it goes in between chariot, throne, which has implications of movement and repose, moving and not moving. A rider in Merkavah, are they not at rest while in motion? Is there something about remembering and keeping Shabbat that deals with this realization and an opportunity for this recognition, this realization, this remembrance? Feeling? It's very interesting. Here's this entire movement of 6 days of creation. And on the 7th day, Elohim rests. Somehow, it feels that this being and becoming, this movement and this repose are inseparable. That everything flows from this repose, this rest. And everything returns to this repose and rest. And everywhere in the midst, there's actually this repose, this rest. Isn't all of creation the great Merkavah of the infinite and eternal? Running and returning, descending and ascending, moving and moving not. Feel?
Well, it seems that in this mind of separation, one can always remember one's emptiness at any time. Then one can invite the fullness.
Well, a remembrance, a recognition of emptiness is a cessation of separation. And the nature of this emptiness, this nothingness, clearly is fullness, since everything flows from it. Everything arises from it, within it, and returns to it. It's the inmost nature of everything. The spiritual essence of everything.
So in those times where we're feeling the separation, could you say a way to transform that is to see the emptiness of this one that always feels separate, always feels like there's it gets distracted, I suppose, by goings on in the world.
Whenever you find that you are two, return to be one. Go inside. Remember the oneness. Remember the nothingness. And we know many ways of provoking that awareness. Many different little ways that we can initiate in a given moment based on what's arising that may return us to this presence of awareness. Such as simply remembering breath and the Spirit of God in breath. Remembering the One as the light and life in us and everything. Or just for a moment thinking of ourselves as light, surrounded by light in a great ocean of light. Just for a moment. And, right? Yeah.
I'm hearing kind of a paradox that I'd kind of like to probe a bit more in this teaching, in the sense that I'm both hearing that in this teaching of one who, that to descend means one's perceived from this oneness, and that's why descend is focusing spiritual energy. I'm hearing both that this is a state that is intrinsic to all beings, but also a state that is to some degree achieved too. So it's an interesting paradox that I was hoping to pursue a bit more and understand.
Well, it may be intrinsic, but until recognized and realized, isn't there a distinction between potential and actual? See? It's like an ordinary dream versus a lucid dream. They're very different experiences. The reality of them isn't different. Both are a radiant display of one's mind. Yeah? Both are a radiant display of one's mind, inseparable from one's being, one's mind. This is intrinsic, this is true. But when one knows one's dreaming, has full power of concentration, becomes an entirely different experience of the various actions one can take, transforming dream and the various things that may transpire in dream purely by this presence of awareness. So there's something about the generation of the presence of awareness, the recognition, the realization, that actualizes this potential, this intrinsic nature. Feeling? And it does seem paradoxical. However, if considered in this way, just is. The difference between an ordinary dream and a lucid dream. There is a difference between an ordinary incarnation and that of a realized individual. And then there must be all these gradations in between, fully asleep, fully awake, right? There must be all these gradations. We also know that these things shift, that there's a dance of running and returning in consciousness in this play.
So in this sense, the practices that are given, are they a kind of practicing this activity that is part of this intrinsic nature in faith, with the hope that in the practicing of faith we notice kind of how this is intrinsically true?
Yes, and the more we experience those moments of light transmission, along with faith, do we not have knowledge? Where we are glimpsing? Just like as we develop as meditators, we develop interior life and we have those glimpses, those tastes. Doesn't knowledge come to join faith? So that with faith we're also engaging the practice with knowledge of this truth more and more? When we say practices are given as a direct expression of this realization, we're also saying they are given as a direct expression of our intrinsic nature, and this is why they're powerful. This is why they work. Because in a manner of speaking, you're rehearsing the truth. And you are reweaving yourself and your neural net to be more conscious of your inner being and your spiritual essence. To open more and more to this experience and this movement of the light and the Spirit of God. Why is frequently thinking of oneself as light, surrounded by light, so important and so powerful? Probably opens us more and more to this light transmission, and experiences of the energetic dimension of our being that is beyond the physical, that is beyond death.
I recall a while back a teaching in regards to union with Part 2-4. There was this mystery about this practice being associated with coming into conscious union with the One versus often the unconscious union. So I'm hearing in this arising, which I heard as the descent, this mystery of conscious union.
From nothingness, from oneness, from conscious union. These are three synonymous terms. And in such an arising, there's actually an experience of the mind of God, the heart of God, and the body of God. The knowledge of God. No wonder of play, prophecy, revelation, even wonder working, divine actions. Sure. Conscious union. Oneness.
Yeah. I have that term somehow different.
It's fun to use different terms because it helps inroads of us perhaps recognizing what's being pointed at. You know, the fact is when we're first hearing oneness, we usually hear from ears of two-ness.
Yeah.
It really takes a while to hear oneness. And to recognize that simple truth, the immediate truth of oneness. Even to begin to notice that, oh, oneness includes two-ness. That's what oneness is. It includes everything. Whoa. Hence, another phrase for oneness, non-dual. So we have these phrases which are all indicating this essential truth of our spiritual essence. This intrinsic nature of our being, our consciousness. Yeah?
Yeah.
And unconscious union, that's a state of ignorance. Conscious union, well, this is a state of the knowledge of God. Wisdom, understanding, knowledge, enlightenment, awake.
And I recall we've discussed with that idea the ability to maintain a unique individuality in that arising.
That is an interesting thing of the phrase of David, a song. Well, if he's like in nothingness, if he's in Ein Sof, what's this of David, a song?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, the ego is nullified in this oneness, in this nothingness. Self, as one is in oneself, is nullified. But when nullified, all of a sudden there's self as one is in the Holy One. As these outward aspects of the soul, nefesh, ruach, nullified, all of a sudden neshama, an essence of neshama, chaya, yachida, shine through, of David. And there is this truth of the Holy One, the unique one. There is no other. If we're emanations of the unique one, each is unique and individual, while being inseparable from the one, while being one. This is another truth of oneness. You know, at first we would think of oneness almost like Cloneville, right?
Yeah.
And we would think of image and likeness like Cloneville, rather than this greater truth, this awesome and wonderful truth of uniqueness. But that's the very term, Yechida, our spiritual essence, unique essence, divine spark. Unique essence, divine spark. These are true translations of Yechida, which indicates our spiritual essence. So this realization is about being who we are in the one. Of unifying who we are in the one with who we are in ourselves. So that who we are in ourselves may arise as who we are in the one. Hands up, David, a song. Feeling?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't say of God through David a song. It says of David a song. I love that phrasing. What a wonderful teaching of uniqueness. Perhaps enough for one time. Holy One, we bless you, we bless your name. And we invoke this day your supernal influx, giving all praise and thanks to you for the anointing we have received, for the light and life that is in us. And we offer this light and life to you in return. We offer up to you all of your creation, praying that all might be gathered into you. O Holy One, we hold all in our hearts. We hold all in your heart, praying that all might be fulfilled, that all might remember that they live and move and have their being in you and have never been apart from you. We give thanks for the Queen of Shabbat, for the resting of your presence upon us, for the movement of your Spirit within and through us. And we pray that your Spirit touches many this day, blessing and awakening, delivering and healing. O Holy One, may your supernal grace, your supernal mercy pour out freely on this holy day of Shabbat. May there be peace on earth. May many know the joy that is in you, the perfect bliss. Amen and amen.
Amen.